was out of town last week, so I didn't get to be on the show and cover the very, very quick downfall of the Joker sequel. But more news has come out because the film has been out for a week now, and the movie had a historic 81% drop from week 1 to week 2, pulling in just $7.5 million domestically. If ever there was a place for a womp, 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 it would be on this story right now.
Well, I'm looking at another Discussing Film report. Joker 2 earned $2.2 million on October 11th, a 90% drop from its domestic opening day. The film might have the highest box office drop for a comic book movie ever.
Okay, so I saw people arguing about whether you even want to call this a comic book movie. I mean, they've done pretty good to say this is not connected to DC. He's not even the real Joker.
Todd Phillips can tell himself as many times as he wants that he's not affiliated with DC and he's not making a comic book movie, and he can act like he's so above it all, but that's the truth of what he was doing, and that's the reason why anyone went to see the first Joker at all, is because it's attached to that character.
Let me put it into a little bit of perspective for everyone. The Marvels had a 78% drop from week 1 to week 2. So it opened week 1 to week 2 worse than the Marvels. It also it made less at the box office in week 1 and week 2 than Morbius. So Morbin Time did better than this film. Morbius opened to 39 million, whereas Joker only opened to 37. And week 2, it made 10 million, whereas this one only made 7 million.
Okay, it's wild because, granted, I never watched Morbius. I did watch the Marvels, though. Unfortunate. I'm sorry to say it's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. Yep. But Joker 2 was not as bad as the Marvels. No, it wasn't. Objectively, it just wasn't as bad of a movie as the Marvels.
And the Marvels was worse, in my opinion, than Madam Web, which I actually had fun at because it was so bad it was good.
The problem with Joker 2 is not that it's cinematically like inferior to the Marvels and therefore it's making less money. The problem is that I genuinely think Joker 2 is more mean-spirited toward its own audience.
Yeah. I saw other people talking about this weekend, and I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that missed it. I saw multiple people saying that they did not catch the prison rape, that it wasn't abundantly clear to them.
It was not clear to me at first either.
Which is funny because when I see that, I say, well, what that is right there is that's a fault of the storyteller, right? It's the storyteller's job. If it's explicitly supposed to mean that, then it's his job through the visual aspect of the storytelling to show that in some way. But if he leaves it ambiguous like that, he runs the risk of people jumping to that conclusion and people like me just being like, I don't know, is that what that was supposed to be? I don't know.
I can see how it would feel like a lose-lose situation because you don't show it and people say that you failed as a storyteller at showing what happened. Or you do show it, and first of all, no one wants to see that. But second of all, people are going to, again, say that you failed as a storyteller because you're treating your audience like they're idiots and not trusting that they can pick up on the subtext.
Yeah.
So I watched it and assumed that, maybe my mind was in the gutter for assuming that was a gay gang rape scene. But when I looked further into it, it was confirmed. So then I knew how it was supposed to fit into the whole tapestry of the death of Joker as a persona.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. To me, the idea that you can simply strip someone and then beat the crap out of them, that's perfectly humiliating. So I don't feel like it's wrong for their brain to not necessarily go all the way to that conclusion. And maybe his point as a storyteller was that, he left it open to interpretation, but people were looking for a reason to not like this movie already.
Well, the reason why I found it believable is because there were intentional gay undertones to
earlier in the
Joaquin
movie.
Phoenix's Joker, not only in the second but the first as well, that he's just kind of effeminate, that's he has creative flourishes and he's a little bit light in the loafers and he has limp wrists and he likes dancing about and things like that, right?
There's a 20 there.
Collis L. Bryant said the what is this?
Make America Hot Again, I think.
Hot Again?
Or Healthy Again. It's both of those.
Okay, lyrics of They're Eating the Dogs are Stop Eating the Carbs, Start Eating the Fats. And then for a full remix, you could replace Hassan's yell with the goat scream meme.
Okay.
We're not going to be making America Healthy Again.
I'm not a musical... I'm not
tell Carter though.
Yeah, tell
maybe
Carter
he can work on that.
Here's what I found to be now. Okay, we'll go back to this. So we're just getting back into the movie again. I want to get into a little bit more. So I think there was a missed opportunity here. So this weekend, Joker was absolutely decimated by Terrifier 3, which was an independent film that was made for $2 million, pulled in $18 million at the box office. But when you only spend $2 million on your movie, $18 million is a great return on investment. Now, this was a movie that had no MPAA rating because they did not go through the traditional production means. Because if they do, they run the risk of being censored and being told that they have to cut things out. So they went through Cinemark independently and were able to get this film in theaters, which had like notices on certain screenings that said like you might throw up watching this movie. But here's my problem. Both of these movies were clowns. There was a Barbenheimer opportunity here that could have absolutely worked to both of their advantages if they had found a way to market it or build memes out of it together.
Yeah, Warner Brothers should be on watch for another opportunity like that.
Yeah, they could have.
Todd Phillips would never. He's so pretentious.
So we got into a discussion on Saturday about the fact that he cut out Warner Brothers entirely. He wasn't even letting them on set.
But weirdly enough, it seemed like James Gunn, after taking over DC simultaneously with the production of Joker 2, was not even remotely interested in being involved in this, because he must have just assumed like, oh yeah, slam dunk, like easy win for us. I don't need to be heavily involved in that, especially because it's not in the main universe, right? The main, like the DCU. I don't even see a reason for him to get involved because it's still something that was born out of time before he was in charge. So just let it go and let grandfather
it
in, I guess.
And then let
I don't know, but like, I don't know. Maybe disaster could have been mitigated here if he had just. It wasn't that he was necessarily like shut out. It was just that he didn't seem interested, according to reports. And also, but they're saying that David Zaslav wasn't even allowed on set. Like, imagine the power trip to be able to be like, that's wild. You, the head of the studio, are not allowed on set for this film. It's looking to lose. Conservatively, they're saying $150 million. Some people are saying they're saying the marketing on this was less so. I don't know where the information is on that, but they're saying that the break even for this film looks to be about 450 to 500 million. I would have expected it to be more because I would have expected there to be heavier marketing for a movie of this price tag. So if the idea here is that it has to make 450 to 500 million dollars, well, it's made about 165 so far, and it took an 81% drop from week 1 to week 2. In most films, those weekly drops tend to steady and level out. But even if you're dropping at 60% week to week, you're just a couple $1 million in a couple weeks or so. And this isn't going to be the same type of thing. This isn't going to be the same type of thing as Deadpool and Wolverine, which made like $15 million in its first weekend. That's finally out of theaters, right? But that finally left theaters. It went and did pay VOD, right? And it made about $15 million in its first week on pay VOD. There isn't going to be how long ago? It is out of theaters, right? I don't know if it's entirely out of theaters, but it at least is simultaneously maybe at just a couple of theaters, but also pay VOD. This isn't going to be pulling in $15 million on pay VOD. I don't think. Like, I don't see people wanting to say like, oh, I don't want to watch it depress me at the theaters. I'll just let it depress me at home. I think people's minds are made up about this. It is not 2019 anymore. So what you need to remember is Captain Marvel, Aquaman, and Joker all came out around that time, and all of them made $1 billion. Okay. None of those movies made even a quarter of what their predecessors made at the theaters. Okay, took too long to make all the sequels. The interest isn't there. They missed out on some opportunities to cross-promote it with memes and use your social media teams to engage with other products that are out right now. I think that this movie is a wash, and I think Todd Phillips is going to go on to
work on other things, and it's definitely not, because he says he's got no interest.
Not
he's got
bigger and better things.
No, other things. I'm saying he has no interest in working with DC again in the future. James Gunn seems to have his vision for what DC is going to be firmly in hand. They have wrapped production on Superman. It's in post-production now. Creature Commandos is already done. They've got their idea of what they want it to be, and it's not going to look like Joker.
Well, it was never going to, right?
No, not with James Gunn. It was never going to look like that. I had this discussion on Saturday. I was like, does like James Gunn's ability to stay on track, get things done on time, fill anybody with a sense of optimism towards DC? A lot of people say no, because they just don't know if James Gunn's unique style of storytelling is exactly cut out for Superman, but we'll have to wait for the first trailer for that. And even then, as we know, trailers aren't always the greatest gauge for whether a movie is going to be successful or not. Strong word of mouth works the best. And what I think is funny about that is James Gunn has a strong track record with that. So we were talking about how Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is one of the few successful projects from Marvel in that phase, in Phase 4, didn't have a fantastic opening weekend, but strong word of mouth carried it to almost $900 million at the theaters. So if you can put out a Superman movie with strong word of mouth, even if it doesn't have the greatest opening weekend, which I can actually say is probably pretty reasonable, given that there is no faith in these companies right now. People aren't lining up to go to the first week at these movies because they don't know what they're going to get anymore, as is evident with most of Marvel Phase 4 and most of DC projects. If you can produce a decent Superman film, and I'm not even saying like knock it out of the park, a decent Superman film, hopeful, optimistic, it hits the marks it needs to. The hope would be that you can pull low drops, not 81% drops, low drops week to week, like a Top Gun Maverick or a Guardians of the Galaxy, and push that forward. And they need to do that with the next 3 to 5 films. They all have to have good word of mouth. They can't just have good opening weekends. That's what Batman vs. Superman did. Batman vs. Superman had a strong opening week and then fell off a cliff. You can't do that anymore. Word of mouth matters. We'll have to wait and see, but we're a year out from that now, because that'll be next summer. So we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media, and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.